उपलिप्यते यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशं न उपलिप्यते सर्वत्र अवस्थितो देहे तदात्मा न उपलिप्यते. Word to word. Yata, as, sarvagatam, all pervading, saukshmyat, due to being subtle, akasam, the sky, na, never, upalipyate, mixes, sarvatra, everywhere, avastitaha, situated, dehe, in the body, tata. So, atma, the self, na, never, upalipyate, mixes. Translation by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Please repeat. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to his subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. Try to see. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pungum Langayate Girim Yatkrupatamam Vande Sri Gurum Denatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Swamancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhayeva Cha Paitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Mera Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Bandhu ki jai. Thank you all for joining. So this is from chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, verse number 33. Try to see the summary, try to see the sections and the connection from the previous chapter, and then we'll try to go to this verse and the context. So in the Bhagavad Gita, as we know, there are 18 chapters. The first 6 chapters predominantly talking about out of the 5 subject matters of Isvara, Jiva, Kala, Prakriti, and Karma. So the first 6 chapters predominantly talking about karma, underlying factor, and more stressing on the Nishkama Karma Yoga gradually from 3rd to 4th to 5th. So Nishkama Karma Yoga process is being stressed. And the last, the middle 6 chapters, the pure devotion service, starting with Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, pure devotion service is stressed at in the chapter 12, leading up to from 7th chapter to 12th chapter. The last 6 chapters especially stressed how to be detached from this material world, how to be detached from the bodily concept of life. So the internal detachment is being stressed. That's why the Gnana has been stressed in these last 6 chapters, starting with the 13th chapter. Very important chapters, last 6 chapters. So that's why in 13th chapter you see that nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. And if you look at the whole Bhagavad Gita idea of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna instructing Arjuna, is mainly the purpose is to instruct Arjuna to become a dutiful servant. So as a duty, as a matter of duty, with what consciousness he must execute his duty. So that is the main purpose. So you can transcend the material activities into spiritual activities as a matter of duty to offer that to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That was the main key instruction of Bhagavad Gita. So the 18th chapter, now the 13th chapter, we can clearly see where Gnana is specifically mentioned as the here, that mainly explaining the last 6 chapters, the field, knower of the field, the process of knowledge and object of knowledge. These are the last 6 chapters mainly concentrating about Gnana. Another way I can look at is in 13 chapters specifically been describing the real nature of the body, Jiva, the Supreme Lord will be delineated, and the cause of the relation of the body with the Jiva, who is distinct from his body, and the method of making the distinction will be considered. So that is the main crux of this particular chapter. Basically, this chapter is outline the format for the last 6 chapters. It's a very, very important chapter, and that's what we'll see in the Prabhupada's purport also. One should know the distinction between the purpose of this 13th chapter is know the distinction between the body and the wonder of the body and the super soul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12, where he's talking about the humility, pridelessness, achara upasanam, surrendering to spiritual master, and important out of those almost 18 or so qualities or characteristics mentioned, different types of knowledge mentioned. Maicha avyabhicharini bhakti yogena. So pure devotional service, that is the main important aspect. Other than accepting spiritual master, those 2 aspects out of all of them are considered as knowledge. Then stressed, then one can go to the supreme destination. So idea of Bhagavad Gita is how to go beyond, transcend these modes and go to supreme destination. So that's where the 13th chapter plays a vital role. So, and this Prabhupada talks about one must understand, have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. Seemingly it's easy. It's very philosophical, this chapter. Seemingly easy, but every day that's why in Prabhupada's class and spiritual master classes, and we'll see the examples how to come out of this enjoyment mentality, independent mentality, and the consciousness with which we operate on a day-to-day basis, how we'll come out. And there are many examples throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. The same aspects are being described by Narada Muni to King Prachi and Barhi, Lord Krishna to Uddhava. Similar verse is there, exact similar verse is there. In fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, a little more elaborate, similar point is being mentioned. We'll cover that also. So that's why it's the Prabhupada is mentioning how the living entity comes into contact with the material nature and how is delivered by the Supreme Lord. So the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and discharge of devotion service are being explained in this. Although living entity is completely different from the material body, but he somehow becomes related. So that is the main crux of this this chapter out of the last 6 chapters. Now the connection. Why did he here in this chapter beginning, Arjuna is asking the 6 questions, which is Purusha and Prakriti. And there is the first 2 questions, material nature and enjoyer. And then the enjoyer, Purusha here means living entity, male or female, doesn't matter. Everybody is trying to enjoy. So it's not that just the male is the only Purusha. But actual real Purusha is being explained later on in this chapter. Supreme Purusha, supreme enjoyer is only Lord Krishna. And then the next 2 questions are the field of activities, the body and the knower of the field, the soul. Those are the 2 additional questions. 4. Then the 5 and 6 is knowledge and object of knowledge, Jnanam and Gneyam. These are the 6 questions asked by Arjuna. But why did he ask these questions? What was the connection? So the indication has been given previous chapters also, but especially in the 12th chapter, So Lord Krishna is talking about in the 8th verse, Tesham aham samuddatta mrityu samsara sagara bhavami nacharat pardam niyavis jazam. So I will swiftly deliver one who is engaging in devotion. Tesham aham samuddatta. So how will we deliver? So one must gain the transcendental knowledge. So that's why cultivation of knowledge. And also in the 12th verse, Seyo jnanam abhyasa jnana dhyanam visishyate jnana karma phala tyago tyaga chantranantam. So Arjuna is taking humble position, thinking that he is at the lowest rung. So he doesn't have a quality of immediately spontaneously thinking of Lord Krishna until his mind. So that's why he's thinking as the lowest. So the Krishna is instructing, then one must cultivate knowledge. So that's why he's asking these very important questions. And also in the previous chapters, we see that he's been hearing and knowledge has been stressed throughout Bhagavad Gita. Only way when the lust is situated in mind, intelligence, false ego, and senses, only way it can be curbed is through sharpening intelligence with the transcendental knowledge. So in the 4th chapter and the 5th chapter, many other places. That's why the framework is been given in this 13th chapter, because if you look at the chapter titles also, nature, enjoyer, and consciousness, how the jiva is tied to the material nature. Why jiva is suffering? Why is he here first place? And why is he suffering? So, and then actually he is trying to enjoy, but actually what consciousness you should have, how you should operate in this world, that is being stressed, material enjoy consciousness. That's why the title is like that. But that is leading up to, you'll see that pattern. Now why the material nature, jiva is being affected, being in this material nature, is suffering, enjoying or suffering seemingly, but is still in this material, taking different types of bodies. So that's why what is the reason? 3 modes of material nature. Soul is not performing actually. Because of 3 modes of material nature is acting. That is verse is mentioned in 13th chapter itself, 22. Karanam gunasanga sad asad janma yonis. So he's taking different bodies. It is mainly association. That's why the 14th chapter is relation to the 13th chapter. How these 3 modes of material nature work, how to come out of, transcend those modes. 14th chapter specifically, whole chapter is given. Now then the 15th chapter is described how you can come out, how to be detached from the Vedic perspective, giving banana, the banyan tree, a reverse banyan tree has been explained, the whole 15th chapter, Purushottam Prapti Yoga. And gradually you will see that what duty one must perform, what duty one shouldn't perform has to be known. That is the knowledge. How he is being conditioned, how he can be liberated. That means he should know what is the duty, what kind of duty he shouldn't perform. So that's why the 16th and 17th chapter has to be laid out. Otherwise, you may know detached, but you need to know clearly distinguish what exactly is the real duty, what is not real duty. What is divine, what is demoniac. So that's why 16th chapter at the last verse you will see that what is duty, what is not duty. That is the main purpose of that chapter also, divine, demoniac natures. And then you need to know these 3 modes of what are the characteristics in terms of food, in terms of all the habits, the charity, sacrifice, determination, happiness, everything. How it is, all these activities are categorized under the 3 modes. How different living entities are operating, what kind of food they are taking, what kind of charity they are doing, and what mode they are operating. So that we can see ourselves in which mode we are operating, how we can change that mode to different mode, higher mode, how we can transcend. So in this way, gradually, then the 18th chapter is giving the summary study of that. So that is why 13th chapter is the actual connection, which is laying out the ground, the giving the key relationship between the jiva and the material nature, and then the obviously the soul. So that's why the 13th chapter is very important. Now the connection, as I mentioned already. So now let's look at the questions also asked by Arjuna so far, so that we understand how Bhagavad Gita is being played out till now. What kind of questions Arjuna is asking, how is progressing step by step, and is a little bit diverting in some places. The first question itself is at the highest level. You'll see this is the 11th question Arjuna is asking. Or, 11th question Arjuna is asking these 6 questions in this chapter. But the first question is asked in the second chapter. You'll see that symptoms of self-realized soul. In 2.54, how does he walk? How does it? It is the highest level. Second chapter is asking. But then again, in the later on, you will see that he's asking basic questions. Why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare? That was the second question. In the third chapter, first verse. And the 36th verse, third question is asking, Arjuna is asking, why somebody is forced to act sinfully, even though unwillingly. So that is the third question Arjuna is asking in the same chapter of Karma Yoga. And then the fourth chapter is asking about the sun god Vivaswan. You mentioned you gave the knowledge, but how can I understand? You're senior by birth to you. So that was the fourth question is asking. And then the fifth question is in the 5th chapter, similar to third question. First of all, you ask me to renounce the work. Again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, tell me which one is beneficial. You want me to renounce or work with devotion? And those are the 5th question. And the 6th question is in the 6th chapter, 33 and 34, where he's asking, you summarize what you summarize this kind of yoga, Hatha Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, especially Ashtanga Yoga and Hatha Yoga, impractical, unendurable. Mind is restless and unsteady. How will you control? It is more difficult to control than the wind. That was a question. How do you control? Then the Krishna answered. Then the 7th question is asked further. Is asking Arjuna is asking what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process but fails later on basis to the worldly mindedness. So that was the 7th question. Now the 8th question, 7th question is a further it is elaborate question he's asking, but more or less it is that is the 6th chapter, 37, 38, 39, 3 verses covering the similar question, 7th question. And then the 8th question you see in the beginning of the 8th chapter about what is Brahman, self, and fruitive activities and material manifestation, what are demigods. This was the 8th question Arjuna is asking. And the 9th question you see in the 10th chapter. Please explain me in detail of the divine opulences by which you pervade all the 3 worlds. O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you? How shall I know you? In what various forms you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? So that then, O Janardana, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I have never satiated. In this way, he is asking that 9th question. And 10th question is in the 11th chapter, 31 verse. Please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisance. Please be gracious to me. You are the Supreme Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. And the letter on so many verses are there in the 11th chapter, but those are not more of questions. But this was the only question in that. And the 11th question is today's chapter beginning, where he's asking about the 6 points. No, the 11th question is in the 12th chapter, which are considered to be more perfect. Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service are those who are worshipping the impersonal Brahman. That is in the 12th chapter, verse number 1. Now today's chapter, first question is in the 12th question. So that we understand how these questions are played out, with what kind of consciousness, and how is asking Arjuna, how is asking Lord Krishna, and how Lord Krishna is answering. So this must be understood so that we can also plan accordingly in our life how to follow our lifestyle. So now let's look at this verse where first let's look at the sections: nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. There are the 5 sections. First section is the first verse. Arjuna asked 6 questions, and then the next section is 2 to 12. Lord Krishna is answering about especially field of activities, knower of field, and knowledge. 3, 4, 5. He's not answering the first and second because it's more complex than the other ones. Purusha and enjoyer, material nature, and the enjoyer. And then the third section is beginning from 13 to 19 about the object of knowledge, Gnayam. That is question number 6. And then the section 4 begins 20 to 26 is this is the first and second question is asking. So that is in the section 4, 20 to 26, Prakriti and Purusha. And in the last section where we are in today's verse 33 is in 27 to 35, consciousness as nature, enjoyer, consciousness. So the last title of the chapter, consciousness, is being described here. With what consciousness one must act, one must know and operate on day-to-day basis. This is the 5 sections laid out in this chapter. Now, this verse has been described here. The sky, that due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. It is like is a similar verse we see in the 9th chapter also. Krishna himself is mentioning about him, his activities. Yata akasam chito nityam vayur sarvatra go maham tada sarvani bhutani mastani ito badaraya. Even though everything is situated in me, but at the same time, I am aloof from it. Just like the air. Air and sky are two different. And it's not related, it doesn't mix. But air is always situated in sky. Same way here. Super, and the Brahman, there are 3 Brahmans. On the Vedic Shrutis, it is mentioned. Prabhupada refers in one of the verse. So, first Brahman is the material nature, is also called Brahman. Then the next one is the living entity, the soul is also called Brahman, but minute Brahman. And then the third Brahman is Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord Krishna. The soul is, even though as an example is given here, because in the previous verse is also already mentioned, soul is not the one who is performing the activities, because the living entity, the body, associating with 3 modes of material nature, is performing different activities. But soul is not mixed with anything. Soul cannot be mixed with anything. So that's now how do we understand the example is given in this verse, as the sky, ether is pervading everywhere. Without sky, you cannot even hear a sound. That was the first one produced out of 5 material elements when they call Big Bang, but it is out of when the Mahavishnu glanced from that 26 elements has been described here also, Mahabhutan, and the verse number 3 or 4 in this chapter also. So those 26 elements are still not the actual real cause. Real cause is Supreme Lord. Sri Krishna, as per Mahavishnu, is the cause of these 26 material elements. But the soul is independent, is not mixed with the sky. Sky is a still material cause, but is not mixed with anything, even though sky is pervaded. Same way, the soul, the Brahman, is pervaded everywhere, but is not mixed with anything. So, one way to understand this nature enjoyer consciousness is the 6 koshas. First understanding is the Annamaya kosha, the field of activities. To understand the field of activities, first 3 levels, 3 koshas are related to the field of activities: Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Jnanamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha means just dependent on the food. There are so many living entities who are just dependent on the food. Only they know about how to eat and sustain. That's all they know. That is the Annamaya kosha. Then the next level is the Pranamaya kosha, living symptoms. The understanding, having the living, identifying the living symptoms. That is the next level of Annamaya kosha, which is Pranamaya kosha. Then go beyond, there is Gnanamaya kosha, which is thinking, feeling, willing. All these 3 categories of different levels of koshas are still field of activities. But we have to go beyond this field of activities, which is nothing but Vijnanamaya kosha. That means the living entity, the soul, is different from this field of activities. The field of activities is compared to this body, as Krishna is giving the answer in the beginning itself. And that field is compared to the just like agriculture field. Why? Because in the agriculture field also you have to till the land, and you put the whatever fertilizers according to the to the degree you do properly, fertilize and to till the land and nourish it properly, the whole land, and then you put proper seeds, good seeds, and then you get the good fruits, vegetables or whatever you grow. The results, the fruits of that activity will be good. Good results will come. Same way, to the what kind of seeds we grow means what kind of activities we perform, accordingly the results will be there. We perform activities, transcendental activities, spiritual activities, then we get the spiritual benefits. If we perform activities on the platform of mode of goodness or passion or ignorance, then the pious or impious, pious or sinful activity, which is just based on the scriptural injunctions, still it is binding. But we have to go beyond this, uh, beyond the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. That means every activity must be performed for the pleasure of Supreme Lord. Just like we are being, if you take a lease, anybody taking a lease, either office or a apartment, we are not the owners. So once the lease is over, then you have a certain time. You will be given certain restrictions in which you have to operate in, what rules you have to follow, and then you have certain limitations. Same way, this body is being given. You are not the owner, but Supreme Lord is the owner. He is giving this body for a lease. 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, sometimes it is only a few months, sometimes it's only a few days. The body, soul gives up this body within the womb of the mother itself, sometimes, because of the past sinful activity. Then he cannot sustain, he cannot stay longer than that, because he's been given this body. We are not the proprietor. Real proprietor is the one who's giving the lease, this body. Okay, this particular activity, this seed you have sown in the past life, and then this is what the result is going to be in this life, because that's how you acted in this kind of mode. Then you are going to get this type of body in this type of family. Karanam, the reason is guna sangasya, because the association with these modes, guna sangasya, sad asad. Then you are taking up different births in these different species of life, different families, different continents, different countries. Accordingly, we are on different planets. So all these are being explained. Prakriti, Purusha Prakriti Sto Mungte, Prakriti Jair Guna. So the mainly the three modes of material nature. So the lease is being given, and with restrictions, what we operate, we have to operate within that, within those things. Otherwise, that's why why if somebody says why somebody is constructing a house, to reside in the house, to enjoy in the house, to perform certain activities in the house. So why the Supreme Lord has created this house, this material world? To give facility for a living entity, because he wants to enjoy separately from the Lord. But because he is not understanding the actual real thing, till the point he doesn't inquire about the absolute truth, Atma Tattva, how to realize about the real self and the super self. Knowledge is not just limited knowledge, is understanding the soul and the body, difference between body, but the real knowledge is understanding super soul also, understanding actually who is the real owner, understanding our relationship and service. Then only we transcend. Otherwise, we will still stay in this material nature only. If you understand only the soul and body is not enough. We have to know the actual real owner, the super soul, and relation and the service. Then only you can go beyond this material nature, material world, and go to the spiritual world. Otherwise, there is no question of transcending from this material sphere to spiritual world. So that's why this example must be understood. This lease example, how we are restricted. We think we are independent. We think we have all facilities, but actually, Lord has given enough facilities. But it has its restrictions. We are really actually suffering, but we are thinking we are enjoying. So that's why one must understand this. How the actually who is the real enjoyer? This has been explained in this verse. So one must inquire. Otherwise, it is a coloring different kind of activity. Karmatmaka yana sarira bandha, just becomes a bondage. So a person is engaged in any kind of karma, whether it's pious or impious, both are going to the bondage, because the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear. So that's why he's engaged in this fruitive activity. So that's why one must hear the transcendental knowledge. We see in the 4th chapter, as blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all the reactions of material activities. So that is what we have to understand. What is actually purpose, why Lord has created this material world. So now look at the verse around Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, 11th canto, 11th chapter, verse number 12 and 13. Although the sky or the space is the resting place of everything, the sky does not mix with anything, nor is it entangled. Similarly, the sun is not at all attached to the water, in which it is reflected within innumerable reservoirs. And the mighty wind blowing everywhere is not affected by innumerable aromas and atmospheres through which it passes. In the same way, a self-realized soul is completely detached from the material body and the material world around it. He is like a person who has awakened and arisen from a dream. So that means we will be fighting in a dream. Tiger is killing or some snake is killing, whatever. But we have to awaken from the dream. If we are still in the dream, then nobody can help. If we come out from the dream, then we have possibility. Then we will be in the better situated. Awaken and arisen from a dream. With expert vision, sharpened by detachment, the self-realized soul cuts all doubts to pieces through knowledge of the self and completely withdraws his consciousness from the expansion of material activity. So here in the Srila Bhakti, according to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, self-realized soul cuts all the doubts to pieces by direct experience of his true spiritual identity, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, and there is no possibility of any existence separate from Lord Krishna. Such expert knowledge cuts all doubts to pieces. So that's what has been explained. Now, how to come out of this kind of enjoyment mentality? So only way is to hear. So hearing the transcendental knowledge again and again, this has been described in multiple different chapters, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, 11, 20, 27, 28. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he sometimes engages in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. So in this way, by faithful hearing of the mercy and the glories of the Lord, one will gradually be freed from all material desires and clearly see that every moment the utter frustration of sense gratification, chanting the glories of the Lord with firm faith and conviction is tremendously powerful spiritual process, and that enables one to give up all material association. Another place mentioned Madhya Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita. यही लीला अमृत विने खाया यदि अन्न पाने तवे भक्तेर दुर्लभ जीवन यार एक बिंदु पाने उत्पुल्लित तनु मने हासे गाय करे मत्तम. Man becomes strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of nectar of Krishna's pastime, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. And important point Prabhupada is making. All the devotees connected with Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. So that's what Prabhupada is warning. And so one must read. Maybe distribute and doing all other service, but if you are not reading and hearing regularly, especially Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, gradually Chaitanya Charitamrita, then it becomes very difficult. because we won't be convinced, we will not be able to divert our attention, transcend these modes. We will not be able to see that clearly. In the canto number 4 also, similar aspect is mentioned. O best of the kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and hearing the Lord's activities, very soon becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. So achira deva rajanye syad achyuta katashpraya srinvata sraddhadanasya nityada syad adiyata. Constant purport Prabhupada is making. Constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of Vasudeva means constantly hearing the glories of the Lord. The principles of Bhakti Yoga, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Achanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, are the only means by which perfection can be attained. Simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, one is elevated to transcendental position. In another place, verse number 22, 23, 24, 11th canto, 11th chapter. Jiva Goswami stated that if one does not have faith in the personal form and activities of the personality of Godhead, one will not have spiritual strength to remain perpetually on the transcendental platform. In this verse, the Lord is definitely bringing Uddhava and all living entities to the conclusion of all philosophy, pure devotional service to Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. In this regard, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur points out that one who is bewildered by false ego may not want to offer his activity to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though this is the actual way of rising above the influence of modes of material nature. Because of ignorance, one does not know that he is the eternal servant of Krishna, and instead is attracted with the duality of material illusion. One cannot become free from such illusion by theoretical speculation. But if one offers one's work to the personality of Godhead, one clearly understands his eternal transcendental position as servant of the Lord. As we see in chapter 12, Lord Krishna is making that point. If you cannot remember spontaneously, then you perform regulative service, devotional service, which is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which we are performing. If you cannot do that, work for me. If you cannot do that, offer results to me. If you cannot do that, cultivate knowledge. In this way, gradually. So, Lord Krishna is giving various choices, because for some it may not be possible. So, that's all the options are given. Here, Bhakti Siddhanta is making the point. One must offer one's work to the personality of Godhead, engage in practical service. Further, in 23 to 24, Lord Krishna is instructing, my dear Uddhava, narrations of my pastimes and qualities are all auspicious and purify the entire universe. A faithful person who constantly hears, glorifies, and remembers such transcendental activities, who through dramatic performances relieves my pastimes, relives my pastime, beginning with my appearance, and who takes full shelter of me, dedicating his religious, sensual, occupational activities for my satisfaction, certainly obtains unflinching devotional service unto me, the eternal personality of Godhead. So we can see again and again the only way we can come out from this association of the three, especially acting on the lower platform, three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Knowledge means still operating on the mode of goodness. That is not enough. We have to transcend that mode of goodness to Visuddha Sattva. That means we have to go to the Vijnanamaya. That's not even enough. Anandamaya. Vijnanamaya means go beyond the field of activities and perform practical service to the spiritual master and Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And then gradually we come to that blissful state, Anandamaya, starting with Vijnanamaya, understanding, distinguishing clearly from the field of activities and the soul and the super soul relationship, that is Vijnanamaya. And then gradually coming to the highest stage, a pure blissful stage, that is Anandamaya. Then we will be able to cross over from this mode of ignorance and passion, all these anarthas. So only way is by bhakti process. Even the karma on its own, jnana on its own is not enough to transcend, to even to merge into Brahmana effulgence as jnanis do. So by bhakti must be mixed. Then only karma mishra bhakti, jnana mishra bhakti to get its results. But we are interested in pure devotion service. Gradually, we have to come above this three modes of material nature and come to transcend these three modes of material nature by gradually, especially by faithfully hearing. One place it is mentioned, spiritual master. One must hear from expert spiritual master regularly every day to come out, transcend this mode. There is no other way about it. And that that is mentioned in the 8 to 12 verses also in this chapter. Acharya Upasana is very important, and pure devotional service under the guidance of spiritual master only, because otherwise there is no way, because he has transcended the modes. So by his help we will be able to transcend the modes. He can see in what position we are operating on, then he can guide us, he can elevate us by his association, by his instruction, by his Vani especially. So that's why Srila Prabhupada's books and Srila Prabhupada's instructions and Guru's instructions very, very important to really transcend the modes, go out of our comfort zone, and just please him as a matter of, as a duty to please him, not to please ourselves. Pure devotion service means not to please our senses. Only I will do this service only if I like it. So no, whether once Guru is instructing, Prabhupada is instructing, then one must ready to do whether we like it or not like it. No question of comfort zone. We should be ready to perform that service, whatever it may be. We have to ask from others if we don't know how to perform that service, but we should be ready to jump and ready to learn and do it. That's what this verse is mainly talking about, how to transcend the modes. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Krishna Namananda Prabhu. Such a profound class. Lots of wonderful details of how we can focus on Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada's words. Dear devotees, anything would like to add? Any questions, comments, concerns, reflections, realizations? There are, you have time. Seems like everybody is very much filled with after Janmashtami and Tadayatra and so many festivals we had in the last few weeks. He's completely in the same mood, I believe. How to serve more Krishna. Thank you, Tarani Radhika Mataji. I was mentioning this yesterday with devotees that 300 people came over and chanted, took the holy name. It was quite amazing. Thank you so much for that, such a dedication.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, I just wanted to add, it was, I feel it in the beginning, the 10 that you had given, right? I just started and then it was just like person was supposed to join, could not join for some reason. So I was just with few people and I was just like, oh Lord, whatever few people I'll get with my, whatever's best I can do, I will just do. Like that, I was just playing to Panchatattva and I was doing it. And suddenly some, when Prabhuji came, he said, he started putting chairs. And then, there was one row. And after that, they're like more devotees. And then the devotee went and got one more line of chairs. And third line, there were like 4 lines until like 11:45. These these new people were like chanting. So I was just feeling it was just a Panchatattva, mercy of them.
Yeah.
as well as Radharani's special mercy I felt. They were also usually somebody is chanting with them throughout the whole mala, right?
Hmm.
But that was the first time I really saw that. I asked them to sit and finish the round. They all sat and completed the whole round by themselves without any of us being with them throughout the journey.
Hmm.
So that was like most bewildering for me. I thought it was Radhani's mercy, nothing else.
Of course, yes.
It was,
It's quite amazing that, to connect to the Radharani, to connect to the Guru Parampara, just chanting the holy name of Krishna. It's an amazing, wonderful.
yeah, many Janmashtamis we have done, but then seeing how they were sitting and absorbed in it, it
Yeah.
was like really shocking for me also. So it was
Yeah,
a very
yeah.
good experience.
Yeah, there's so many devotees. That's the purpose of all this, right? The new people come and they get somehow connected to the holy name, and they'll be there. This is the seed which sow in their heart, and that grow and grow and grow and grow, and eventually they'll take up this Krishna consciousness. I'm sure about that. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your dedication that day.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the service opportunity. All mercy of
Yeah,
God and Krishna. Thank you, Hare
wonderful.
Krishna.
Very nice. Hare Krishna.
All glories to you.
All good. So did they get the bead also? They took the bead or just
We were like, what happened on Janmashtami was like one more special thing happened was like we had just around 25 beads, Prabhuji. With 25 beads, we rotated amongst all of them.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, some people went and bought the bead, like they paid money and bought. I just directed them to the gift store. But
Yeah.
what happened was like seeing this struggle on Janmashtami. On Sunday evening, this Prabhuji came with like 100 beads. So we didn't have to depend on the gift store beads. So with these beads on Sunday evening, around 50 people, 50 plus devotee, new people chanted because it was like the parent, that costume thing, right? The kids. So
Right.
those people all took the beads. They, yeah. So most of
Okay.
them took the beads on Sunday evening. So that's what happened.
Wow. Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anything else? Like to add? Any questions from anybody? Any comments? Murdananda Prabhu, you're quiet. We missed you last few days.
Hare Krishna Prabhu's it's always Krishna Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhu just got caught up with a little work. I think now I'm back in the groove. But it's 2 days you miss, 3 days you miss, it becomes like it becomes
Hey, Kalpa.
become a habit.
1,000 yuga cycle.
Yeah, but it's wonderful whatever we do in the evening and morning. It's like a habit. Just like how we eat. So it becomes a little uneasy, so to say. Thank you, all of you, for organizing this. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for your association.
Yeah.
If no other questions, maybe I'll read a paragraph here. Continue from Uddhava's Lord Krishna's instruction. Nice point has been made. And then we can end probably. One who has obtained a pure devotional service by association with my devotees always engages in worshipping me, thus is very easily goes to my abode, which is revealed by my pure devotees. Lord Krishna emphasized the value of surrendering to him in loving service. One may ask how such surrender or devotion is actually achieved. The Lord gives the answer. One must live in a society of devotees, and thus automatically one will be engaged 24 hours a day in the various processes of devotion service. Beginning with Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. The pure devotees of the Lord can reveal the spiritual world by their transcendental sound vibration, making it possible for even a neophyte devotee to experience the Lord's abode. Being thus enlivened, the neophyte makes further progress and gradually becomes qualified to personally serve the personality of Godhead in the spiritual world. By constantly associating with devotees and learning from them about devotion service, one quickly achieves deep attachment for the Lord and Lord service. And such attachment gradually matures into pure love of God. Foolish persons may say that various mantras composed of names of God, as well as all other mantras, are merely material creation with no special value. And therefore, any so-called mantra or mystical process will ultimately produce the same result. To refute such superficial thinking, Lord here describes the science of going back home, back to Godhead. One should not accept the bad association of impersonalists who state that the holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord are Maya or illusion. Maya is actually an insignificant potency of the Almighty Personality of God. And if one ignorantly tries to elevate illusion above the absolute truth, one will never experience love of Godhead and will be cast into deep forgetfulness of the Lord. One should not associate with those who are envious of the fortunate devotees who are going back to Godhead. Such envious persons deride the abode of the Lord, which is revealed by pure devotees. To those who have faith in the Lord's message, envious persons create disturbances among the people in general, who should take shelter of the faithful devotees of the Lord. Unless people hear from pure devotees, it is impossible for them to understand that there is Supreme Personality of Godhead eternally existing in his own abode, which is self-luminous, full of bliss and knowledge. So the importance of Sangha and association is clear from this verse. Even for a neophyte can go back to Godhead. Prabhupada is mentioning 11:11:25. All glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Krishna Namananda, for Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Very nice. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So we will then conclude if there is nothing else. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Vanchakalpatarupasya. Kripā sindhubhyev patitānaṁ pāvanebhyo Vaishnava ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nanda Vaishnava ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari.
Thank you all for your
Thank you,
association.
everybody. Hari Bol.